You're on your roof?
Yeah,
Going up there, that's not a good place for you.
I know if my daughter knew about it, she'd still be hollering at me. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is approval of today's agenda. I entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the today's agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Public comment on matters not on the agenda. We have no cards. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on matters not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of our minutes from our January 18th, 2018 meeting.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no, motion carries. Review of monthly and year-to-date revenues and expenses. Mr. Zillow.
Skipped one.
A report out on closed session.
Oh, yes, I skipped one. Sorry. Report out on closed session.
I think that the mic is probably not working, but the board did meet in closed session to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigations identified on the closed session agenda, and no action was taken.
Thank you. Now, to Mr. Zillow.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This report summarizes revenue and expenditures for December 2017. In December, the agency had a starting cash position in funds 870, 871 of approximately $2.2 million. I report that there's no revenue for the December, but after I did the report, we posted the true-up amounts that are attached to the revenue, attached to this month's reports to the December revenue amount. So that'll improve this position by $156,000 when you see it again next month. Expenditures for the month of December were primarily in the Southport project. They were the AECom construction contract, about $1 million, a settlement for land acquisition for $170,000, and construction management and environmental oversight of the project, which totaled about $700,000. Total expenditures for the month were $2.1 million, and the corrected ending position for the month of December will be $245,000. It reports out as 56. In December, the approximate overall agency position with the funds in the advanced fund account was $20.8 million. Since I did the report, there was a lot of activity this last month, so almost like to last week. So we received the first installment of the flood assessment of $2.274 million. That's about a 2% increase over last year, so it was essentially flat in terms of growth. It reflects the board's approved increase. We received the approval for the quarter 26 statement of costs, which covered October, December, so that allowed us to move $7.7 million from the advance fund to 871, so that's money we've deemed earned now. That was really good. We also received the fourth real estate reimbursement for $3.5 million. And so that brought our balance as of approximately yesterday to $23 million. It pumped up Fund 871, so we have cash on hand to pay for work. It increased our overall agency cash position as well. We're watching the three remaining condemnation cases right now to see how they'll affect our cash flow. And Toby and Ken are working with the contractor on the construction curves, which will inform our cash flow burn rate in this next construction season, and also size the advance that we'll request from DWR in April or May or June. And I think that does it for the report on December.
Okay. Any questions? Bill? Any questions? Mark, I have one, that the reimbursement, the 156,000,
Yes.
where will that appear, on that O&M line?
I'll probably put it in miscellaneous revenue, or wherever Nitish tells me to put it.
Okay.
Or, I'll either,
I just.
I'll put another line item that reflects the true-up on that, so it can be seen clearly. It's a one-time annual adjustment, so in terms of our overall picture, it's a miscellaneous revenue, but if the board has a desire to see a separate
And
line
that's,
item.
and that's fine, so it sticks out there, but I think it should reference that it is a reimbursement for prior O&M
Sure,
charges or
we
whatever.
can do that.
Okay. Okay. Very good. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there, anyone have any questions on the two consent items before we have a motion to do it, to go through with it?
Go.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Is it seconded?
I second it.
I just have one comment. I had some questions I furnished to Nitish that we can discuss them afterwards if, okay. Well, it was just on the, those balances in the bond funds and how those are calculated and,
Yes. Those are actually restricted funds according to the bond indenture, so it's a reserve.
right,
So as those carry on year over year.
right, so it's estimated on an annual basis what's needed to be in there and.
It's
and
1
then
years of
funded.
debt service payment, yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. Well, we have a motion to move the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion, the consent items carry. Item 8, presentation on the midterm budget report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Before I continue with this presentation, I would like to welcome and introduce our new finance director and also WASAFCA treasurer, Ms. Roberta Raper.
Hi, it's my second day today. Very happy to meet you all and be a part of this organization and get to know the WASAFCA. I've been looking through the CAFR and the budget, so looking forward to getting to know you and the agency better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Over the next few months, Roberta and I will be working together in the finance, and then we'll address board questions and stuff. But in November, as you know, we were in front of the board with a budget report, and there were some good questions. If you could, we don't want the slides right now. No, yes. We had some very good questions from the board, so this is an opportunity for us to present to you the midterm budget report for the WASAFCA fund. And we also included in your packet two other attachments. One is for Fund 652, which is a city fund. It's city support services, and I'll go over those briefly, and also the any other questions you may have. As in the attachment one is the WASAFCA general fund budget, which Mark gives a report monthly basis about the expenditures. In this budget, the annual assessments and related expenditures are recorded. For example, the operations and maintenance and debt service. By request of the board, we have included budget detail to illustrate the cost of WASAFCA program are separate and distinctly reported. It's not commingled with any city costs, so we started including that. Larger items are described in the staff report. However, they include the O&M payments to the three member agencies, and also the payment to city for the flood support cost, which is also included in attachment 2 that I'll briefly go over. And the other large expense in this is the debt service payments, the annual debt service payments on the two outstanding bonds. Attachment 2 of the report is approved by the City Council. As I said, we have majority of this budget, majority of this funding is from WASAFCA capital projects, and some from WASAFCA General Fund, which is in your attachment 1 under Object Code 5310. So the total flood program cost, including the flood division's overhead, is 1.3 million. At the bottom of attachment 2, we actually did a little table to illustrate that $1 million of that is covered through a SAFCA CIP, while 55,000 is from other capital projects that may be in city funds. And that the net result is a deficit of 263, which is from attachment 2, is actually transferred to WSAFCA general fund. So it's separate. It's not double allocation. And I just wanted to say something that when we do billing, we bill all departments, all funds, same methodology. So it's not like we do anything special for SAFCA in billing process. So either it's ICAP at the end of the year, we'll true up the cost, and we'll be in front of the board again to demonstrate from 263, either it's up or down, and show you the true cost. Attachment 3 is basically a summary of first 7 months, and like I said, Mark Zolo provides a month-to-month update. But first 7 months budget to actual. The actual expenditures for first 7 months is consistent when compared to prior 7 months. We have included notes in all these attachments for any object codes there are overspent. And this is a short report, but I'll be happy to take any questions you may have, and then also walk you through if you have any specific questions about ICAP.
Questions, Bill?
Call me later.
Calling you later? Okay, then I'll ask a question. And it's the one that I
Yes.
had forwarded to you, that, and the question was that the monies that, the revenues that are coming in from our capital projects that are billed out at an ICAP rate,
Yes.
does that ICAP include a lot of these overhead costs that are listed in the,
Part of the 263.
yeah, the, which, you know, is all the support stuff?
If you could pull the slide, and thank you for the questions, by the way. So I was just to have a brief overview of how the calculation works, and then see if this helps.
Okay.
So we looked at flood program support fund, which is the Fund 652, and there are 6.87 positions in this fund. Of this, 6 are billable positions. The 2.87 positions are part of the ICAP rate, so they're not billable. So average hourly salaries and benefit rate for all 6 positions is about $61.22. The ICAP approved for 17-18 is 115.71, so that's 115%, which is $70.83. So the total cost per hour for each billable average is $132. So at the beginning of the year, we also look at the number of CIP billable hours. As you know, that a lot of hours, if you're in a meeting, it's not charged. If you're sick, it's not charged. Or if somebody's on vacation. And a lot of our staff in the WSAFCA program are been here for a while, so they're at the max, so they have a lot of vacation and stuff.
Okay.
So we looked at the total billable hours, it was 7,784. As you can see, that results in $1 million in CIP billing.
Okay.
And if you add the 55,000, $1,082,000. As you know, we have to approve a balanced budget that leaves a gap of 263. So that we, in this WSAFCA, since this program supports 100% WSAFCA, it's transferred to WSAFCA. At the end of the year, we'll true up the 263, and if there's more billable hours, you'll actually you'll get a credit back. And we're hoping the total cost is all CIP billable. That's the goal. But when we do this budget, that's how we have to balance it. And I just wanted to show you something. If you go to the next slide, And this is consistent citywide. This is the city fund, 615, which is all the engineers in the city fund. And as city council, every year they approve approximately 341,000 in the same methodology because they know the ICAP does not cover all of the cost. So, and we drew this up. So I just wanted to show you that, and this is for illustration purposes only, like I said, but it's similar method that when we budget, we have to have a balanced budget. In this case, city council approved 341,000 for the engineering fund, which is 615. So you can go back to the first slide. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It's all budgeting purposes, but just for a little more clarification, the hourly salary and benefit rate, that's salary plus the various benefits are added in there.
Absolutely.
And then, so then that 15.71%, that's added on to that hourly wait, what does that compose of?
So-
15.71%.
Good point. So that composes of the administration costs for the two, like the director position in this case, and the administrative analyst or administrative, administrative analyst one, and then also the finance cost, the IT cost, city manager cost. So that's what's built into the 115.71.
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought, and that makes sense, because, we're providing that service to the project, or the city is, and they need to be fully reimbursed. I'm not completely clear then, it appears then what's budgeted in for that administrative cost, it seems like it goes over the whole 6 point whatever percentage of full-time personnel we have. And that there's no, I guess the question would be, if we had no billings to a capital project like that,
Yeah.
and it was just all our internal consumption.
It's 1.3 million.
And 1.3 million, would our administrative billing be higher than this 263,000?
If you have no billing to work order?
Yeah, if we had no outside billing, and it was all just, consumed by, let's say, we didn't have a project going on, then and we had the same number of employees, would our billing be the same, 263, based on the employees and how you spread those costs throughout the city?
Pretty close, 244,000. Attachment 2, 5950 has that number.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the cost, regardless you have 1 hour of billable or not, that's the cost of what we call is third floor
Yeah.
reimbursement.
Okay, that's clear.
Yeah, and that's for utilities and all the
Yeah,
supplies.
understood, okay.
Yeah, insurance.
Then, very good. Well, any other questions from any of you folks?
Nope.
Okay, is there is there an action we're supposed to do here? Or
there's no
is this
action. It's
just
just
a
presentation.
report, so?
Yeah, and
Okay.
any comments you may have for the next quarter meeting, but that will be, that you want to see anything different.
Okay, very good. We appreciate the update.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Item 9 was Safeco project updates. Who's on board?
I'm up.
Okay.
Good morning, Chairman Ramos and members of the board. So I'd like to go over some of the highlights from this month's project updates. Mark already covered quite the true-up, if you will, in our financial position since the report was made and published, so a lot of activity there to the positive. On the Southport project, we're pretty much in winter suspension, with only activities really being some debris cleanup and keeping up with the stormwater BMPs. But while we're in winter suspension, staff is working very actively with the contractor on the 2018 construction season and their proposed work activities, production rates, and so they're trying to get that dialed in. Other staff solicited some proposals for environmental consulting services, and that's primarily around the Time Oil holdings and the contamination site. So we received 8 proposals. Staff put a team together to review, score, and rank the proposals, SCS Engineers was the highest ranked, and staff is currently involved in contract negotiations, and we anticipate bringing a contract for consideration at the March meeting. Also, with the Time Oil Contamination Site, staff requested from the Central Valley Flood Protection Board a minor alteration request to cover the construction activities for that area, as they were not described by the current encroachment permit that we have from them. And that was approved, and now the work can go to construction, which we anticipate happening in June. And then also in support of the cultural resources and compliance with Section 106, for those cultural resources, we are proposing to modify the design in the offset area to avoid the culturally sensitive site around the 3000 South River Road area. That's also going, because it changes the topography out there, we're doing some additional modeling to make sure that there's no excessive erosion, and if there is, that we may have to modify the design a little bit to account for that. So that's ongoing right now. But the good news is that, at least it appears at this point, we should be able to avoid the site altogether as part of, and that was included as part of our historic property treatment plan that was submitted to the Corps. And that plan was prepared by GEI, submitted, it's been a couple of months. The Corps approved the plan, and they went out for consultation with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and the two tribes. That went out, I think, January 31st was the date, so that's a 30-day consultation period. So we're not aware of any comments received thus far, but avoidance is the number one way of dealing with these things, so we anticipate we'll be able to get approval or concurrence from SHPO and move forward with that plan. All right, that pretty much sums up the activities for the Southport project. Now move on to the federal project. I think the board is well aware of all the work that's gone in with staff in the district over the last couple of months, revising the project, the federal project cost schedule, and then ultimately a benefit cost ratio. So we sit currently at a BCR of 2.2, much better than the previous 1.2. The costs have been fully certified. The entire economics package, which including the BCR, is going to go out for agency technical review, just like the cost did. It should go out this week. The Corps has done a good job of lining up the actual reviewers by the Corps, so we're hoping to be able to expedite that review. However, just as a caveat, if there's agency technical review, there's division review and concurrence, then there's the colonel at the district review and concurrence. If they all run their full range, it could take up to 11 weeks. We're hoping to shorten that. And I think folks are probably aware that the federal budget process is moving forward. We hope it continues to move forward. We hope we get a fiscal year 18 budget approved here soon, which then allows us to hopefully get approved for preliminary engineering and design funds for the Corps to start design of the next increment. It looks like the federal budget process will move ahead of the final certification process for that econ package and that BCR. However, all of the new metrics and all of the new cost and schedule and BCR numbers have already been provided to division and folks at headquarters. It's just with the asterisk that it's under final certification. So we've received a lot of positive feedback all the way up the chain, including back in DC with Corps headquarters as well as Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army as well. So all have been informed and aware of our very improved number. And feedback is we should be able to compete well for funding.
Okay.
So we're keeping our fingers crossed that in fact happens. Before I move on to anything else, are there any other questions on the federal project? I know we're all looking at that very closely.
No, good work so far. Let's hope that we get something out of it this year.
Oh, and I would like to mention also that the Corps released their fiscal year 19 budget. There are 4, I think, projects requested funding for fiscal year 19. There are 3 for construction, and there are 3 in California. One of them is Natomas, and then there's Santa Ana, and I forget the other one. But the takeaway is that there were no new start construction requests for this region. And so that's a little concerning to us. We're anticipating or hoping for new start construction in fiscal year 20. So over the course of the next year, staff, along with the state and probably staff with SAFCA, will continue to coordinate with the Corps, try and get our best sense of what they plan to do for fiscal year 20 construction requests. And we'll keep you updated as that ripens, but it'll probably be a few months before we get into that with the Corps. All right, Deepwater Ship Channel East Drainage Project. This is the repair for the sloughing that occurred at the toe of the Deepwater Ship Channel East levee last winter. And that project is currently out for bid. We had a pre-bid meeting on February 7th, which was well attended with 8 to 10 firms showing up. The bids close February 22nd, at which time we'll open them. And we hope to be able to bring an item to the board in March to award a construction contract for construction to begin this summer. And that concludes my updates, and be happy to answer any other questions the board has.
Any other questions?
Nope. Very good.
Just so I get confused, that the funding for that east drainage repair comes from our general fund, for lack of a better term, or?
Yeah, that's correct. Comes from the WSAFCA Fund 870,
Okay.
well, 871.
Is there any reimbursements from because of storm related, or?
I've got grants in to try and get reimbursement. We've also working with FEMA to try and get reimbursement. We're also working with, another federal agency to try and get reimbursement. That process is taking quite a while.
Okay.
So we're working every angle we possibly can to get money from the government.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And if all else fails on those fronts, we're going to take a look at the ability to apply for a credit MOU with the Corps.
Yeah. Okay.
For the advancement of the federal project. There is no design for that area, but it's fully anticipated that with the fix of the Deepwater Ship Channel East levee, that canal would have to go, which would require a different drainage solution, which we've just provided. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Bill, anything else?
That's it.
Any director's comments?
No.
Well, hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.